Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again with another video where we're not talking about drama with quests. We're gonna go over the best decks to play since the latest Demon Hunter nerf that has basically taken Demon Hunter. Like you look at the front page stats, they're not great. They keep dropping. No decks are trending well at higher ranks. Turns out just a one-mana nerf is enough to really destroy a class, but we all kind of figured it was propped up by that. But yeah, we have 5 decks for standard and wild that you can take and reasonably expect to climb, whether it's to bronze, well, you're already bronze, but silver, gold, platinum, diamond, or legend for the very first time. And actually it's 10 standard decks because I reverse clickbait. I always put 5 and then I do 10. So we got 10 standard decks, 5 wild decks, and definitely a lot of them are not the playstyle I love. It's very aggressive, it's very combo-y, but hopefully there's a little bit of something for everybody in here. And let's start off, well, you're not gonna like this. It's a priest deck, which we highlighted a couple of days ago that is just taking off Zarimi Priest, where you summon 5 other dragons. You get to take an extra turn once in a game, and you basically just run this dragon, 1-mana dragons in gift wrapped whelp, as well as Chirurgeon, which means when you scale replica, you always hit your Zarimi, get that quest basically complete. You got whelp wranglers to give you some more dragons. You got Pip the Pote, which can give you some more dragons. And then you have your draw engine in there with Crimson Clergy, Funnel Cake, your 0-mana minions and Thirsty Drifters, and your Zilliaxes, which is a ticking module to get cheaper and then buff your board. And you do have a little bit of late game in there with Amanthal, because Amanthal goes in every priest deck. It's broken unless it's wild aggro. We'll see that in a second. And Thirsty Drifter isn't really late game, it's 0 mana, but Hearthstone Brew, like an alternate win con, which can be pretty spectacular. Some people run Leroy instead. I honestly don't know which is better, but I like Hearthstone Brew better, so I'm going to recommend it. And yes, this deck is very good, arguably the best deck in the format. And by the way, I always put these in order of what I think is like the strongest to weakest, just so you know. Next, we have Pain Warlock, an extremely aggressive deck. We highlighted it yesterday if you want to see some gameplay on it, where you want to cheat out your Molten Giants, your Imprisoned Horrors, and you just self-damage a lot. You are going to be very low health with this deck. It's all in on the early game scam. You self-damage with like Elemental or Elementium Geode, Spirit Bomb, Flame Imps, you got your Blood Treants, and there's like your late game is like Symphony of Sins. You have Pop Guard there for some reach and healing, Malefic Rook to self-damage, and Forge of Wills is a busted card that copies up all of your giant minions, and really good, extremely aggressive, and also obviously susceptible to burn if you get too low. But the numbers are very strong on it. It's just one of the more bizarre decks out there. I gotta say, it is one of the weirder ones to play. It feels pretty crazy when it goes off. And yeah, it is an effective deck to say the least. Hunter back in the game now that they're not make Therodon to death every single turn by Demon Hunter, where you have token. Hunter is back in there where you just want to spam all your beasts, whether it's Sneaky Snakes or your RC Rampage or your tokens to remote control and Ball of Spiders. Get a saddle up on all of it so your board is really hard to remove. That allows you to push damage with like the Jungle Gym location, your kill commands, and you can of course cheat out your Zilliax. I like the ticking module was nerfed and it's still like the most played one. Mana cheat's good, and of course just Agrimar in there because Titan's really good. It's damage, it's pretty busted. And yeah, Hunter is back in the mix and trending very well outside of basically higher legend that falls off. Everywhere else, it is pretty darn good. Rainbow Death Knight, really solid. I was looking for Plagueless. Straight Plague is just not the deck to play. If you're wanting to win competitively, Rainbow is the way to go. We've cut Glacial Shards now in replacement for Rainbow Seamstress, as we don't need to freeze as much. Quartzite Crusher there of course though, to freeze over and over and over for those warriors or whatever you need to do. You can discover more with Runes of Darkness. There is a bug currently in the game where if you play this and then another weapon, it keeps freezing, so you might be accused of bug abusing or whatever, but overall, if you want to play the deck, play the deck. It's not your fault the bug is there. And overall, it's just a really solid deck. You've got infinite value in the Headless Horseman. You got a late game bomb and climatic necrotic explosion, Ziliax for mass healing. This is my favorite deck of the meta. It is the closest thing we have to a kind of a conventional control deck, and the AoE of like Threads of Despair is so unbelievably good. And be aware, if you play a Sickly Grimewalker, you hero power, get that 1/1 token with Poisonous, and throw Threads of Despair on it. It's like a full board clear, just so you know. It's a really solid deck. I might do an updated gameplay video on this. I've already done like 2 or 3, but I love it, and we can highlight a bit more of the updated stuff. By the way, let me know if any of these decks you want to see gameplay videos on, because I'm throwing those out there more. I'm enjoying them. You guys are tuning in, so let me know. Wheel Warlock's really good. There's a variant that's running Leroy recently. I'm not sure how it's going. I might make a video on that one as well. I'm gonna go with the more tried and tested version we highlighted earlier, where you have basically very limited minions for your Wheel of Death Warlock, so that when you Loken, you either hit Phenotum, you hit Sargeras, or I guess if you hit the Geode, right? But you want to hit a big guy, and then you have your Dark Alley packs to kind of get that early game presence with a big taunt that you can copy, and you can bring that big taunt back with endgame. Of course, you want to play the Wheel of Death, get your 0 mana Phenotum, your Reno ready to go, clear the board with Sargeras, and your opponent blows up, because they only really have 4 turns. They really need to either nerf the way Wheel works or update the wording so it's not 5 turns, because it's really 4, right? So deck's still doing really good, not super changed, but again, maybe we'll highlight the Leroy version at a later date in a video. Rainbow Mage still doing very well. It's got not that many new additions, but Puzzle Master Khagdar, despite how dumb he can be and not so helpful, it's still definitely worth running. People brought it to Master's Tour and everything. But Sleet Skater, again, the highlight of that deck of gaining so much armor for what it can free, especially when you get the Warlocks playing their giant stuff and all of that. And, you know, of course, you play your spell schools, you kill your opponent with Sith, and it's pretty darn solid in that regard. And the deck still does well, not super top tier, but absolutely competitive. Arena Warrior, I keep watching Theo get to like top 20 legend with it. He's got a gameplay video, by the way, of this, I think a similar version of this deck. Theo started his YouTube, so I will link his YouTube down below. If you want to go check it out, give him some support. Don't let him know I told you that, but you know, I want to give him some love. But yeah, it's still the similar Reno build lately, where you got Inventor Boom to bring back your Ziliaxes, to bring back your Burrow Busters. Of course, you got Brand to get the battle cries going to make it even better, and then you can blow your opponent's stuff up with Boom Boss Thogren. Another control deck out there. It's got AoE, it's got removal, it's got a fighting chance against most decks. You got a tiny bit of disruption in there with Dirty Rat, and is probably the other favorite deck for me. It's like Reno Warrior, Wheel Warlock, and Rainbow DK I'm really enjoying, and this is absolutely a deck you can take out there. The ETC, you got some armor gain, and then some Celestial Projectors for some more value, and Gaslight Gatekeeper to draw through and get those TNTs after you play your Thogren. Next, we have Odin Warrior, which I don't think is doing amazingly well. It's pretty close. 9 mana Odin is still playable. It did relatively well at Master's Tour. I mean, the guy that won it had it here. If you want to play this, it functions the same way. Draw your deck, play Odin, then OTK your opponent. And even if your face is frozen, you can play Razorfin Rockstar for 1. You can play your safety goggles for 0. You can Reno, and then you can Burst Rift into Burst Rift and do over 30 damage, which is just disgusting. But yeah, the deck, not the top tier deck, but still competitive even with a 9 mana Odin. I'm not going to go into detail about Nature Shaman. I hate the deck. I loathe it. I don't enjoy anything about it. I will never record a gameplay video for it, but if you want to play it, this is one of the better lists out there, where you want to play Flash of Lightning and kill your opponent. You got some reloads for value to try and beat the Warriors of the World with Fizzle, but yeah, it's just spam 0 mana burn with some spell damage stuff, and it's gross. I hope it gets obliterated next balance patch. I think it's everything that's wrong with Hearthstone, but I'm going to recommend what works. And lastly, this deck, a Paladin, I think it might be emerging as playable now that Demon Hunter got nerfed. It might be catching up. I'm highlighting a Flood Paladin that's showing some decent numbers. Again, the sample size is limited, definitely lower on my recommendation list, but it's got the flash sale. in there to buff up your board, get a Noitron and all of that stuff, but it's all about just spamming dudes, spamming your showdowns, your mining casualties. You can buff it up with, of course, the ticking Ziliax, which can buff your board, get Sea Giants out there, and this try and kill your opponent. You got Crusader's Aura to push that damage. No more Wind Fury, so the Excavate stuff is just gone, and this deck is trending pretty well. The numbers seem good, so if you want to play Paladin, you've been missing that, you want some more tokeny base deck, it's there. You got Amethyst, because again, Titan broken, really good card. So there, I got one Paladin, and I think Hampa Paladin might be close, but I couldn't find reliable numbers, so maybe next deck recommendation video if it's trending well. And for Wild, Wild's not very fun right now. I'll throw Even Shaman, as always. You know, get totems, buff them up, kill your opponent, pretty good. Shadow Zarimi Priest, probably the best deck in the format, where you just spam the super aggressive early game, in particular Void Touch Attendant. You got a bunch of cheap dragons, and if necessary, you take an extra turn to kill your opponent. Just a very fast, very incredibly good deck, and the fact that you get an extra turn in aggro is just something that shouldn't be a thing. I'm sorry, it just shouldn't be. Giant Rogue seems to be a deck that a lot of high-level players have been playing a lot. I've seen rank 1 posts where you just draw a billion cards and then play Giants for 0 mana and then Loatheb and win, or play a big Edwin and win, you know, that type of deal. And you can Loatheb, Shadow Step, Loatheb, Shadow Step, kind of lock your opponent out that way. Pretty toxic. I mean, all the Wild decks are toxic. Even Paladin, though, is the big surprise. This is one of the best performing decks in Wild. I think Corobet got to like top 20 with it. It's got, of course, the ticking Ziliax. That nerf helped this deck that can run the card that way. And yeah, you just spam the early game with your 1 mana hero power. You got Disruption there, like Nurabur Weblord, that kind of locks people out. You got Rebuke, and then Flash Sale, Crusader's Aura. The plushie can now go into this deck, and Call to Arms, one of the most busted cards ever. Get that Crab Rider out there with that, and then go Crusader's Aura. They can't answer that. They're gonna blow up really fast. They're still gonna have that Wind Fury after all. And lastly, the deck I hit legend with, that's Omega Toxic Quest Mage. I apologize. That video did pretty poor. People are like, why play Quest Mage? But it's good. I kind of enjoy playing it. I'm a weirdo, but yeah, you got so many ways to recast your reward with like Parrot, and well, the Parrot recast Orb, which recasts the quest reward. You got, you know, a Daunt, you got Romath, and your ETC's got the Potion of Illusion, another Parrot, Solid Alibi. It's so toxic. Chain Ice Blocks, do all the gross stuff, and yeah, this deck has been pretty effective. And please, Blizzard, please kill it, please, one day. Anyways, there's a lot of decks to try out, whether it's standard or wild. Hopefully you have some good climbs, and stay tuned. I'm sure there's going to be another balance patch in the next week or two, and then we'll have some more deck recommendations after that. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.